The ship's engines whispered like distant storms as it drifted through the black expanse, a solitary beacon swallowed by the indifferent void. I observed from a distance, my presence unnoticed yet inevitable. Below, on the jagged surface of the fractured moon, four forms huddled together, bodies luminous with an ethereal bioluminescence, each movement calculated, cautious, fearful. Their shapes were humanoid, yet not human. Their eyes, too large, too reflective, caught every shimmer of starlight and held it as if measuring the vastness of my approach. The oldest among them stepped forward, her shoulders trembling under the weight of years I could not count, her voice carrying a resonance that was neither spoken nor heard in ordinary terms. It reached me, not through sound, but through recognition, an imploring that bypassed language and struck directly at the awareness I had long cultivated. She tilted her head, a subtle gesture that betrayed both intelligence and despair. I had come to this sector out of curiosity, perhaps even arrogance, yet now I felt the gravity of responsibility. The four were trapped, not by chains I could see, but by circumstance, a collapsed civilization, ruthless predators, and the merciless orbit of a dying star that rendered any escape nearly impossible. Their plea was simple in words but complex in implication: save us, human, or remain irrelevant in your own world. As I descended through the thin atmosphere, the reality of their isolation became undeniable. The barren landscape stretched around them like an ocean of shadows, every crevice a potential tomb. They flinched at my presence, simultaneously desperate and wary. I noticed a faint tremor in their limbs, a mixture of hope and fear. And yet, despite the danger, there was a strange dignity in their stance, a quiet insistence that I could not ignore. I watched them, measuring the depth of their fear, the intensity of their gaze, and the subtle unspoken hierarchy that existed between them. Four distinct personalities, each responding differently to my arrival, one cautious and calculating, one openly trembling with hope, one silently observing every micro-movement, and the last, almost defiant, as if daring me to refuse them. The tension between their vulnerability and their strength made the moment almost unbearable to witness. Somewhere within me, a flicker of the ancient human instinct, to protect, to intervene, to act, ignited. Yet I knew the stakes. This was no simple rescue. Each decision I made could ripple across galaxies, unseen and unacknowledged, changing destinies I had no right to control. And still, despite the enormity of consequence, their collective gaze held me captive. They were speaking without words, urging me forward. Choose, it seemed to say. Act, or let the stars claim us all. The silence between us was almost sacred, broken only by the faint hum of the dying moon beneath our feet. I stepped closer, and their eyes widened in cautious anticipation. One misstep, one instinctual hesitation, and all trust would shatter. But for now, the first exchange had begun, not with dialogue, but with recognition, understanding, and the unspoken covenant of survival. The four of them shifted slightly as I approached, each movement precise, almost ritualistic, as if every gesture carried weight beyond my comprehension. The largest of their eyes, an opalescent blend of silver and amber, locked onto me, scanning, evaluating, reading not just my form but the essence of my intentions. They were creatures of intelligence far beyond instinct, yet beneath that brilliance lay a fragile thread of desperation that drew my attention more powerfully than any technological marvel could. One stepped forward, the one whose aura suggested quiet leadership. Her skin shimmered faintly under the sparse light, translucent in a way that revealed the subtle rhythm of her inner life, veins pulsating with alien energy, muscles shifting beneath in controlled, silent power. She raised her arms slowly, not in surrender, but in appeal. Human! Her thought voice reached me, a resonance in my mind, neither intrusive nor gentle, but filled with urgency, sorrow, and hope all at once. We are bound. We have nowhere. You might be our only chance. The words, though not spoken aloud, carried a gravity that echoed through the emptiness. I realized then that they measured everything not by sound, but by presence, intent, and perception. In this, they were alien yet profoundly human in one sense. They understood fear, longing, and the quiet desperation that comes when freedom seems impossible. The second, smaller yet fiercer in posture, flared her luminescence, a subtle, trembling signal that I instinctively recognized as emphasis. Her energy pulsed with urgency, resonating like a heartbeat against the cold vacuum. "Do not hesitate," her silent command insisted. "We are fragile, yet we endure. Choose wisely." Around them, the fractured landscape loomed ominously, jagged cliffs, deep craters, and the faint glow of mineral veins under the pale light of a distant star. Every shadow seemed alive, every hollow a potential death trap. And yet, despite the desolation, the four moved with a grace that suggested an origin far more magnificent than this desolate prison. I paused, weighing the reality before me. To intervene would be to step into a complexity I could barely comprehend: alien politics, survival, and the raw unpredictability of beings whose physiology and thought processes were entirely foreign. Yet to walk away, that was not merely indifference. It was a deliberate refusal to acknowledge the weight of choice that the universe had placed before me. Their eyes, each so different yet unified in silent communication, did not plead as humans might. There was no manipulation, no sentimentality. Only a stark, unflinching presentation of need and possibility. One glance, and I felt the strange weight of responsibility settle upon me. The moment demanded deliberation, yet action was imperative. And so I remained, a solitary human amidst the alien luminescence, absorbing their silent entreaty. I could feel time stretching, elongating, as if the universe itself held its breath. They were not asking merely for escape. They were offering a choice, a bridge across species and understanding, a chance to assert the subtle yet undeniable influence of humanity in a galaxy that often ignored it. Finally, the leader lowered her arms, the light of her body dimming to a soft, steady glow. Her gaze met mine fully, unflinching. "Decide," she conveyed without words, and in that instant, I knew the first step of this fragile journey had already been taken, not by me, but by the courage of those who dared to ask for what seemed impossible: freedom. The terrain beneath me shifted as I descended, jagged and unforgiving, yet the four moved with an uncanny certainty. Every step they took was measured, deliberate, as if they were familiar not only with the land, but with the silent logic of survival itself. I realized that their fear was not of me. It was of the universe that had confined them, a universe vast, indifferent, and merciless. I was merely a potential key, one that could unlock the fragile threads of their existence. The leader, still radiant with bioluminescence, approached the edge of a deep crater. She paused, her form half-shadowed, the contrast of light revealing the elegance and strength of her alien physiology. "Human," she transmitted, her thought-speech now tinged with urgency, "we have survived countless cycles of despair, yet the path before us is perilous. Step with us, or our freedom is forever lost." I sensed a hesitation ripple through the group, subtle yet unmistakable. Each of the others, while united in purpose, manifested fear differently. One's glow flickered rapidly, betraying a racing pulse of anxiety. Another crouched slightly, calculating every potential danger in the fractured landscape. The fourth, almost defiantly, held her head high, projecting confidence despite the quiver in her frame. Their unity was imperfect, yet bound by the same instinctive hope that I, a human, might act where no one else could. As we moved together toward the rim of the crater, I felt the weight of responsibility pressing inward. This was no ordinary rescue. The gravity of the dying moon tugged subtly at my body, a constant reminder that every movement, every decision, could determine life or death. I could not shield them entirely. The universe had its rules, its natural brutality. Yet even in that brutal expanse, I felt a sense of purpose ignite within me, a subtle affirmation of humanity's capacity to act meaningfully against indifference. The leader glanced back, her eyes reflecting a spectrum of alien light, and in that instant, I understood the depth of their trust. It was not a blind trust, nor was it a naive hope. It was the calculated recognition that sometimes survival depends on the courage of another, even when that other is from a species foreign, unpredictable, and fallible. "You are our choice," she conveyed, "the one bridge between confinement and freedom." Then, as if testing the gravity of our decision, a tremor ran through the fractured ground beneath us. Dust and small rocks cascaded into the crater, and the faint sound, almost imperceptible in the void, of shifting stone echoed around us. Instinctively, they recoiled, their glow intensifying in rapid pulses of alarm. The universe was reminding us that freedom came at a cost. To act, to intervene, was to expose all of us to danger. I extended a hand, slow and deliberate, toward the leader. She hesitated, the tension in the air palpable, then placed her own hand lightly against mine, a gesture of fragile trust, almost ceremonial in its significance. The other three mirrored the motion in subtle ways, their eyes locked on me, on the human who had dared to step forward. In that shared, silent moment, a covenant was forged, not of domination, nor of dependence, but of mutual recognition. And yet, the shadows of the crater whispered of threats unseen. The air itself seemed to vibrate with a latent menace, reminding me that each step forward would demand vigilance, intellect, and courage beyond instinct alone. There was no heroism in naivety. Every misstep could be final. The universe had no mercy, only consequences. And in their pleading gaze, I felt the full magnitude of what had been asked of me, to navigate the impossible, to assert humanity's relevance in a galaxy that often overlooked it, and to carry the weight of 4 alien lives on a path fraught with peril. We stood at the precipice, the crater yawning beneath us like the open maw of an uncaring universe. The 4 of them clustered close, their bioluminescent forms casting an eerie glow against the fractured rock. I could feel the weight of their gaze, not as a demand, but as a quiet reckoning, a reflection of hope and trust that had no guarantee of survival. Every instinct screamed caution, yet within that caution stirred the human need to act, to impose meaning upon chaos. The leader tilted her head slightly, her eyes, vast and intelligent, fixing me with an intensity that was almost unbearable. Decide, she transmitted, the resonance of her thought-speech echoing in the depths of my consciousness. Every moment wasted binds us further to the void. Step forward, or let the darkness claim us. I drew a slow breath, feeling the cold, alien wind biting through the tenuous atmosphere. The other 3 mirrored the leader's tension, one with a flicker of luminescent warning, another with silent calculation, the 4th with a defiant rigidity that seemed to say, "We survive because we must, and you must choose to help." In their combined presence, I realized the magnitude of the responsibility, not merely to intervene, but to embody the potential of humanity itself. With deliberate motion, I extended my hand, bridging the gap between species, between isolation and the possibility of freedom. The leader placed her hand against mine first, the others following instinctively. It was a gesture unadorned by ceremony, yet charged with profound meaning, the fragile, unspoken promise of trust, choice, and courage. The ground trembled beneath us as if testing our resolve. Loose rocks fell into the crater, a reminder that the universe exacts its price for audacity. Yet in that moment, the danger itself became a catalyst, crystallizing our purpose. I could feel their collective hope, fragile and shimmering, threading into my own resolve. Freedom was no longer theirs alone, it was ours to forge together, a testament to the quiet potency of connection and courage. I led them toward the rim, each step a negotiation with gravity, risk, and instinct. As we ascended, the expanse of the fractured moon stretched endlessly below, a reminder of the countless cycles of survival, despair, and hope that had preceded this instant. The 4 glanced at one another, and in their eyes, I saw a reflection of humanity's enduring promise, to act even when consequence is uncertain, to intervene even when outcome is unknowable. And then, at last, we reached solid ground beyond the crater, a plateau bathed in the weak radiance of a distant sun. They turned to me, their forms dimming into steady luminescence, not in submission, but in quiet acknowledgement of shared victory. The leader's gaze met mine, her expression one of solemn gratitude. "You were our choice," she conveyed, "and in that we are free." As we paused, the vast silence of space enveloping us, I realized that freedom was never merely about escape. It was about recognition, empathy, and the courage to step beyond self-imposed boundaries. 4 alien women had entrusted their fates to a single human, and in doing so, they had reminded me that even in the vast, indifferent cosmos, small acts of courage could ripple outward, reshaping destinies in ways unseen, yet profound. I stepped back, watching as they moved with cautious but undeniable freedom into the open landscape. The stars above burned cold and distant, yet for the first time in this silent, desolate expanse, I sensed a connection, a bridge between species, between worlds, and between hope and action. Humanity in that instant mattered. And sometimes that was enough.